Gary Neville, yes, the man accused of blaming British white men for the Manchester horror, is now facing a storm of his own making. What began as a tragedy has become a reckoning. A city wounded by terror and a football icon who chose to lecture the mourners instead of comfort them. He spoke, and the country froze. He said angry middle-aged white men are using the Union flag in a negative way. In a heartbeat, the pain of Manchester was replaced by fury. Because in that sentence, millions heard contempt, not compassion. Across Britain, people were lighting candles. Neville lit a match. Within hours, social feeds erupted. Traitor, they wrote, out of touch. The working man, the soldier's widow, the builder on the scaffolding, all suddenly painted as villains in their own story. A flag that had flown through wars and funerals was now being called a weapon, and the man calling it that is a multimillionaire pundit who built his fortune on the backs of the very fans he just insulted. Even Nigel Farage, rarely lost for words, said what many were thinking: it's nonsense, and Gary Neville has forgotten who he represents. That line landed like thunder, because Farage wasn't defending extremism, he was defending pride. The quiet, everyday pride of people who still believe Britain stands for something decent. People who raise a flag not to divide, but to belong. Neville's defenders said he meant well, but good intentions don't soften arrogance. His timing was cruel, his wording careless, his tone dripping with superiority. While Manchester was bleeding, Neville was preaching. He claims patriotism has been hijacked, but who exactly is the thief? The men fixing roofs in the rain? The veterans who limped home from Iraq? Or the comfortable celebrity now telling them how to feel? That's the question echoing through pubs and kitchens across the country. It's not about left or right, it's about respect. And Neville, for all his talk of unity, showed none. When he ordered that flag removed from his construction site, he thought he was making a statement. He did, just not the one he intended. To ordinary people, it looked like contempt made visible. A flag ripped down by the hands of a man who once wore England's crest on his chest. The same crest born of that flag. The same colors millions cherish. Sky Sports tried to write it out. No punishment, no apology demanded, a quiet internal tick that said, he's one of ours. And that's where the anger turned white hot. Because millions of viewers pay for Sky. They tune in every weekend to watch their clubs, their game, their heritage, and they expect at least a sliver of respect for who they are. Instead, they get lectures from the commentary box. If an ordinary worker insulted customers, he'd be out the door by Monday. Yet Neville sits comfortably behind a microphone, cashing checks while sneering at the audience keeping in there. That double standard has become the real scandal. It's not only what he said, it's the silence that followed. But here's the twist. The more Sky stays quiet, the louder the nation becomes. Petitions calling for his removal have spread online. Fans are threatening to cancel subscriptions. For once, the corporate giant can hear the roar of its own consumers, and it is not cheering. Neville insists he is patriotic. He says he loves Britain, loves the shirt, loves the anthem. But patriotism is not a speech, it is respect. It's standing shoulder to shoulder with countrymen in their worst hour, not pointing fingers from a moral balcony. In Manchester, the memory of the synagogue attack still hangs heavy. Families are rebuilding, communities are uniting, and yet the national conversation is about Gary Neville's view of flags. A distraction many say is engineered by arrogance. Because while ordinary people light candles for victims, the elite light cameras for themselves. While the builder hoists a flag to honor the fallen, the pundit tears it down to polish his virtue. And that is why this story cuts so deep. It's not about one flag, it's about two Britons. The Britain that works, bleeds, and believes, and the Britain that lectures from luxury. As criticism poured in, Neville doubled down. He spoke of divisive language, yet used more of it. He said we should find a neutral point, as if pride were a disease in need of curing. The hypocrisy was staggering. Even some colleagues reportedly rolled their eyes, because in private they know the truth. The flag sells tickets. The anthem fills stadiums. The pride of those so-called angry men keeps the game alive. Take away their loyalty and the whole spectacle collapses. Still, Sky Sports stood firm. No public reprimand, no distancing statement. That silence has begun to sound like endorsement. Viewers are noticing because every time Neville appears on screen, the anger resurfaces. The apology never came, and the resentment keeps growing. Wait until you hear what happened next. Across the country, ex-players and veterans began speaking out. Quiet voices, calm tones, razor-sharp words. They said the flag isn't the problem, the people tearing it down are. Clips of those interviews went viral, gathering millions of views. The narrative shifted again, from outrage to resistance. Ordinary Britons refusing to be shamed for loving their country. Neville's supporters tried to style him as brave, claiming he stood against nationalism. But nationalism wasn't the story. The story was respect, and the lack of it. He wasn't punching up at power, he was punching down at pride. That's what his critics see, and that's why they won't forgive. Inside Sky's headquarters, executives can read the mood. Emails from subscribers, advertisers asking questions, publicists whispering about reputation risk, because this time the viewers aren't forgetting. They are angry, yes, but also awake. At the heart of it lies a question no one at Sky seems brave enough to answer. Why should the British public fund contempt for its own identity? Even Labour, quietly watching, knows the weight of this moment. Starmer cannot afford another divide between the party and patriotic voters. The working class built the movement and still waves a flag. If Labour loses a heartbeat, it loses a country. Meanwhile, Neville remains defiant. He insists he has been misunderstood. But misunderstanding never lasts long. The truth is simpler. He said what he meant, and Britain heard it, loud and clear. For decades, people like him were untouchable. Media darlings who could mock their audience and get away with it. But something has changed. People have stopped apologizing for pride. They've had enough of being told patriotism is shameful. They're reclaiming it, quietly, firmly, without permission. In Manchester, the flags still wave. In villages, on rooftops, outside pubs, red, white, and blue. Not to provoke, to endure, to say, we're still here, and we're not the enemy. Neville's words may have been meant as caution, but they became confession, proof of how distant parts of Britain's media class have drifted from their roots. The man once cheered for his loyalty to England, now lectures those who still have it. And that's the irony no headline can hide. Because every insult aimed at the flag only strengthens it. Every sneer from the screen only hardens the resolve of the people watching. And if Gary Neville won't respect the flag he played under, perhaps he no longer deserves a platform built by those who did. The calls for his dismissal grow louder each day, not out of hatred, but principle. Because when trust breaks, apology should follow. And when apology never comes, consequences must. The story of Gary Neville's outburst is at its core a story of disconnection between the powerful and the people, between those who speak of unity and those who live it, between a pundit's ego and a nation's heart. He called it negative. They call it home. And that's a true Sky Sports broadcast. Don't miss out. Hit subscribe and join the Alert View community. Question for viewers: is this a justified backlash, or has the debate about pride and the flag been twisted beyond recognition? Share your view in the comments.